Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jamie Arias. I am a Learning and Development Manager. And today I'm going to be talking about personal brand and what an important topic this is for one's personal career growth as they are developing on their leadership development journey. What we're going to cover today in personal brand training, there's three objectives that I want you to walk away with. One would be to be able to articulate what personal brand is and its importance when it comes to career progression. Secondly, is to generate an effective communication strategy on how you can develop and mold your personal brand, learn more about your personal brand. Also, set goals to help in living our unique brand. So, everyone's brand is different, and you need to have the ability to recognize it and to live and thrive in your own unique personal brand. So, what is a personal brand? Well, your personal brand by Forbes magazine stated it's a trademark, an asset that you must protect while continuously molding and shaping it. So think about it as you are a CEO of your own company, which is Me Inc. Right? I'm the leader, chief operating officer. I have control of my brand, how I want to market it, how I want others to perceive me, and what I put out into the world and how I show up. What I want you to do now, and we would be in an in-person activity at this point, is first as an individual, take a moment to think about someone that may be in your life professionally or personally that you feel has a really strong personal brand. What are the characteristics that you would use to describe them, right? What are some of the words that you would use to describe them, their attributes? So think about those individuals and write down those attributes that come to mind right away when you think of someone who you've interacted with that has a really strong presence, a really strong brand. So take a moment to do that. Once you've done that, we would then bring you into a breakout session with other participants where you can share those individual words that you came up with on your own, see if you find any commonalities within the group, and then think of your, have a list of your top three common traits that as the group you've came up with, and that we'll share that together in the bigger group. So go ahead and do that. Now that we've done our breakout activity, let's talk about pie. So I know it's almost around Thanksgiving time, and this looks really attractive, but it's not your, mom's apple pie or grandma's apple pie, but pie actually means a few things when it comes to personal brand. Personal brand, there's three ingredients that we are going to talk about today. And the ingredients that make up your personal brand are performance, image, and exposure. So we're going to break those down individually here as we move through. So performance, this is your entry into the game. You are a strong performer. Performance, is important when it comes to how others see you, if it's a positive or negative perception, right? So are you someone that's consistently delivers on their work responsibilities, who's a high performer? So think about that, right? So this is something that is table stakes, it's foundational. You need to be a high performer to be able to progress in your career, right? To be able to go for those promotions or even be selected for leadership programs such as these. Image. So do you know how people actually perceive you? The thing about personal brand that you have to keep in mind is it's not about you, it's about how others perceive you and their experiences that they've had with you. So, what do others say about you when your name comes up? Right. So, image is not necessarily just appearance. Yes, how you show up, are you groomed? Are you prideful in how you dress? But also, are you reliable? Are you consistent? Right? Are you someone who people want to be around? Are you positive? Right? Are you inspiring? All of those things go into your image. Exposure is our last ingredient of our pie. So it's not really who you know, right? So I think a lot of you probably know a lot of people. If you think about your social media account, contacts, or even on, professional network like LinkedIn, but it's about who knows about you, and do the right people know about you. So again, thinking about your career progression and how you want to continue to develop, and potentially be promoted. Are the right people know who you are, know the work that you've done? Have you networked with the right group of individuals? Have you leveraged relationships that you have currently? So if you don't feel like you have enough exposure, there's different ways that you can increase that. And it does take a lot of effort and strategy and a plan. So start where you are, right? Build a network of mentors and champions. So you have individuals that you confide in. It could be your leader, it could be a professor, it could be, a peer, but those individuals that know you, know your work, that you're a high performer and that you're respected. Connect with those individuals, right? Ask them about, how you're perceived. Also, is there someone based on your career progression goals that maybe they could introduce you to? Staying connected is so important. And how are you going to do that? What's your plan to stay connected? Is it just reaching out, introducing yourself? Is it setting up coffee? Is it setting up lunchtime? There's many ways that you can connect with someone, to learn more about what they do, their career progression, and then sharing yours and how you can, create a more mutual relationship. And if they know anyone that you may want to get in front of. So it's constantly something that you will update, maintain, add, right? Subtract. So depending on, what you want to do as you move forward. And that networking is reciprocal. So it's not always about asking for help. Can you introduce me to this person? Can I get in front of this person? But also when you're networking, it is a mutual relationship. So what are you going to give, right? That person that you're with, can you help them in any way? Right, and making their world a little bit better, or contact or resource, knowing the things that you're responsible for, good at, or known for. So thinking about not about what I can take, but what I can give when it comes to growing my network. So when you think about your pie, what is the breakdown of the important, especially as you're earlier on in your career and growing, into your leadership experience? So 50% of your pie is definitely dependent on your performance, your current performance and past performance. But are you someone who consistently meets, right, their goals? But that is going to be almost important when it comes to, are you going to be somebody that they look at, right, for potentially a promotion? Your image is about 30% of the pie, right? So again, how others see me, how I'm perceived, what I'm known for, how I show up. And then about 20% is exposure, right? So if you're performing at a high level, you're seen as someone who's valued, trusted, but no one knows you, it's going to be a little hard for you to progress in your career. But if a lot of people know you, but not for the right reasons, because you're not really a strong performer, or your image has been, bruised, that can also be a challenge. So you always have to think about, when it comes to my personal brand, ensuring that the three ingredients, right, that I'm meeting the mark, or what do I need to work on, right, and create a plan for that. So 7 questions to ask yourself when it comes to your personal brand, and thinking about what that looks like. What's your superpower, right? What are you known for, and your top values that, inspire you, or that are your roadmap to how you perform? What do people frequently praise you for? Again, that's what are you known for? And that's something that you're consistently getting recognized for. How would people consistently describe you, right? What are those adjectives that people would use to describe you? Again, some this might be hard because we're always thinking about how we want to be perceived, but really what's the reality of how I show up to others? What makes the way you achieve results interesting or unique? So what's different about you, right? And how that you approach your work, right? Or approach teamwork or projects. What energizes or ignites you? What are your true passions? And I think this is also something that's extremely important when thinking about your personal brand is how you're going to show up, but also what are those things that excite you, because that's what's going to help you when you're, working on your performance, right? Are you in a role that's, utilizing your strengths to the best of your ability or that you could be? What do you wish your legacy to be? So that's kind of a very powerful one. What do you want to be remembered by? Right. So all of that are things as you're actively, consciously, thoughtfully thinking about your personal brand. So your personal brand. So let's talk about you. Think about what others right now in your circle, if it's your up, down, side. So if you're, your family or your current work associates, it could be your leader, higher ups, it could be peers that you work with, fellow students, right? Or if you're a leader currently, any of your direct reports, how would you think they would describe you, right? So take a moment and think about those words that you feel would come to mind or you would hope would come to mind when somebody was asked about you, right? So what about Jamie Arias? Can you tell me, how would you describe her in a few words? So think about that and jot those down, because it's good to start that process, because we're gonna get to adding on to that in a little bit. So how should I work on my communication strategy, right? And getting my personal brand out there and even learning more about my personal brand from others. So again, things when it comes to marketing, you should think about what message am I sending, right? So am I showing up the way that I want to show up? Am I being, am I somebody that's being, a good teammate? Am I, managing my projects? Am I timely? So what message am I sending if either I am or I'm not doing those things? What sets me apart? What makes me different from my peers or people who are in the same level as I am, right, in management? Who do you know? So let's pull out, your current network list of who you feel has been influential, offered mentorship in your career. So who do you know? But also, who knows you? So that list could look a little bit different. More people could know about you than you know them, right? So kind of think about that. And then where there's a gap, right? Where can I, get to know those individuals who might know a little bit more about me? So adding to your brand bank, there are things you can do to add to your brand bank. So if you're like thinking to yourself, oh wow, I need to work on a couple things, right? My performance is strong, but I'm not quite sure if my image is that strong, right? Or my exposure needs a little work. These are ways that you could actively add to your brand bank everyday activities. So how do you make people feel, right? So thinking about that consciously when every interaction that you have, being reliable, right? So if you say you're going to do something, do it. Volunteer for projects or committees, things like that will help bring additional exposure. Get out of your office or workspace. Don't get siloed in your own area. Walk around, talk to people, go to the lunch cafe and, find new ways to interact. Are you someone who's continually responsive? So responding, appropriately within a respectable amount of time, to questions, just being someone who is a quick responder, and also ties into reliability and builds your credibility. Someone who follows up and follows through, right? So not just saying you're going to do something. This goes back to the reliability piece, I feel, but also following through on your work will continue to add to your brand bank. Approachability. Are you someone who is open, who's warm, who people feel that they can walk and talk to, and that you're kind of easygoing? But your overall presence, again, I'll say this, multiple times, how do you show up, right? To meetings, to calls, to our customers, right? How are we showing up, our overall presence? From, it could be appearance, it could be body language, our work, right? Things that we do, our soft skills that we are constantly working on, like our communication skills, our emotional intelligence, all of that, right? Combined together, overall presence. But also how, again, lastly, but how do we make people feel at the end of the day? If it's not good, probably the image might need a little work. There's also ways that you can subtract from your brand bank and things to keep in mind. Tardiness, someone who's not reliable or late to meetings, or just doesn't show up. Somebody who's untrustworthy, might be a little bit of a gossiper. But also, again, we talk about appearance. It's not necessarily exactly what you wear, but again, are you groomed, or do you take pride in your appearance, or do you just roll out of bed and say, this is this is who I am? But it also ties to, it could be tied to professionalism, but when it comes to being unprofessional, are you rude? Are you someone who doesn't care how you impact others? Or just, rash in your decision making? Somebody who just works more in autonomy and doesn't like teamwork, doesn't communicate, well, and just, again, not a collaborative partner, someone you would want to work with. Really low engagement level, meaning they're not that excited about a lot of things. They just kind of are there in the background, and don't speak up a lot, just really not engaged in what we're doing. And I would say the last thing is that you need to check out the door when it comes to personal brand is the ego, right? The ego could be very manipulative. We have a way of telling ourselves our own story, about how others should see us or what we are. When it comes to personal brand and really being honest about how others may see me, right, or perceive me, you need to check your ego at the door. So when it comes to personal brand, something that we're going to practice is creating a 30-second commercial. And why is that something that you would want to work on? Because it helps really create a positive first impression, especially as you're networking and meeting new people. Or if you meet someone that you've been waiting to meet and you run into them in the elevator or in the lunchroom, and you only have that 30 seconds or a minute time with that person, like, how are you going to present yourself? Right. So it's that introduction in a very rushed moment. These are possibilities, and you need to always be ready to be able to, present your personal brand and your skills. So as a activity, I want you all to think about, you thought about your characteristics that, that you hope others would say about you, thinking about your strengths, thinking about, what you've done, what's your experience, and what are some of the achievements that you've had in your career, and thinking about that and creating a brand statement, right? It could be, up to 2 sentences, shouldn't be terribly long, should no longer be a 30-second commercial pitch, right? So think about Super Bowl 30-second commercial, and the impact that that can have, right? It'll cost a lot of money to do that, but the value or the reward outweighs that cost, and that's why we have so many um, products being presented at the Super Bowl. So big example, but just to show you the importance of what a branding statement and the impact of that could be. So some food for thought, and what I would like you to do moving forward after this workshop training is to get some feedback from people that you work with now, that know you, that have been in your circle. Again, it could be a mentor, a leader, it could be direct reports that report into you, but also peers that also have worked with you, right? So get kind of a full circle evaluation, I would say, about your personal brand, about your image, about your performance, about exposure. Get their feedback. It'd be a great place to start. You know, try to get 3 new contacts, right, out of those individuals that you work with, so you can continue to grow your network. And again, it's reciprocal, right? So you give me one thing, how about I help you with this? But it's really important, again, to have a plan to meet these new individuals and how they can, you know, help you in your career progression. But also they need to know what your career progression goals are. So that's really important as well. And lastly is to use what we've started here in crafting your branding statement, your 30-second commercial. Practice with your mentor, your leader. It's really good to, you know, get some practice underhand so you feel more confident. They can give you some feedback, feel more confident when you are in those opportune times to really present yourself and your personal brand. So this is important because when we get back together next time, we will be sharing this as a group in person, and be able to give each other feedback. So I really hope that this quick personal brand training has been helpful. Again, when it comes to personal brand, think about it as your trademark, your asset, you're the CEO, right? So you need to think about how I want to be perceived, how I can help improve my performance, my image, my exposure. Continue to work on those things, come up with a strategy plan on how I can, you know, grow my network so more people know about my goals, and that I also can continue to evolve, right, in my development journey. So thank you all for joining me today, and I am happy to work with you all in the future. Thank you.